You're inside the press box. Christian FM Sports presents Inside the Press Box, where we discuss all sports from our favorite high school team to college and pro. Here's your hosts, Paul Tipton and Gary Paris.
Hey there, Vero Nation. Thanks for joining us inside the press box. Paul Tipton along with Gary Paris. As week one is now in the books, Vero Beach on the road to start the season. Took on Eau Gallie. The Commodores end up victorious in that ball game, 29-27. There's a few things to unpack here. We'll get to a lot of it here as we just kind of unfold things here a little bit here, Gary. And boy, you know, I don't want to start at the end of the game, but, you know, there's that one play at the end that we all want to talk about. But before we get to that particular play, let's talk about how Vero Beach came out. They looked really good on the first couple of drives. Now, they ended up not really getting any points out of it. They turned over on downs the first two drives, but they were moving the ball. They were showing success on offense, and the defense forced a punt, you know. But then on that second series for Eau Gallie, they strike first with a big pass play.
Yeah, you know, coming out of the gate, Lenny said, okay, we know we're playing a very good, talented team. This team is, Coach Sands has been there since his seventh year. They're the district champions from last year. They're 10-2. They're ranked 13th by Max Preps in the state of Florida. So they're there for a reason. Mm-hmm. And we knew they were going to be a good team. And we with a little bit of a slugfest, and then all of a sudden they break up, a breakdown, miscommunication on defense sometimes, and next thing you know, you're down.
Yeah.
You're sitting down. You're all right. It's okay. We got to bounce back.
They did. And I tell you what, how we bounced back was absolutely incredible. TJ Alford, the Ohio State commit, literally gets in the backfield. I think he got there so fast, he was almost there with the exchange with the quarterback and the running back. He just basically rips the ball out of the running back's hands and then scampers 75 yards for a touchdown, and it's now tie ball game.
Well, you said it best. They were going in to score again.
Yeah.
And we couldn't afford to be down by two scores at this stage of the game. And Alford just turned it around on one play. I mean, he comes in, rips the ball out of the guy's hands, as you said, races over 75 yards to go for a touchdown, and then all of a sudden we're back in the ball game. That's a big-time play made by a big-time player. That young man, we know his athleticism. He's a commit to Ohio State. He's had tons of scholarship offers right now. So, I mean, he's a legit. He's everything you everybody says. He's a 4-star recruit. And he is good. He's very good. That was a big defensive play because, again, they were moving the ball, and we were struggling stopping them and when the big play happened.
Yeah, and there were two kind of themes going on through the course of this ball game, Gary. One of them being Eau Gallie answered the bell every single time. So, Alford gets that fumble recovery and score. We're tied at 7. Next drive, here comes Eau Gallie. They put together about an 8-play drive or so. That includes a big pass play to Maltzby, and they're back on top again.
Yeah, that was a pretty good play. You know, we talk about athletes and their quarterback who came in from John Carroll and
not John Carroll.
I mean, excuse me, I'm sorry,
Melbourne
Central Catholic. Yeah. And he threw for over 2,000 yards at Melbourne Central Catholic.
Yeah. And
if you looked at the preseason game, you know, playing Mainland, and again, playing Mainland was tough.
True.
There was 11-3 game, and he didn't look as good or great as he did against us. He looked very good against us. He had his receivers were catching the ball well. Mm-hmm. The running game was working. He did a good job running the ball. And he was a leader out there. You can sense that this was going to be a battle. You and I when we took a commercial break, I looked over at you and I went, we're in for a fight. This is going to be a fight. all the way.
And it was a fight. So it's 15-7, and it stays that way all the way through halftime. And it just becomes, Vero, did some great things. There was another fumble recovery. Vero Beach got it. Interception by Green. So the defense, in a lot of ways, was doing its job. We just, all of a sudden, the offense that came out sharp in those first two drives kind of stalled a little bit, Gary. About, I'd say, midway through the first quarter, going into that second quarter, and maybe credit Eau Gallie's defense, which was a strong defense, by the way, made some adjustments that we just hadn't countered yet.
Well, you look at one of the stats in the first half that after the game grabbed me was that Vero Beach had probably right around 100 yards of total offense in the first half. 114 yards in the first half. Ended up with 374 total yards for the game. So you talk about adjustments being made.
Yep.
And that's Lenny Jankowski's strength, is that he doesn't panic. He doesn't, he gets upset, but that's his nature. But he rethinks things and he gets things together. And in the second half of this game, it was like two different halves for Vero Beach. Our young quarterback, Mons, to me, woke up. He woke up in a sense that all of a sudden all of his tools were working good for him. His mind, he was reads right, his throwing, his running, whatever he did a good job of making things happen. And unfortunate for us, we dropped a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
And in that first half, and that could be a big difference of the game. And we'll talk about some plays a little bit farther down. But I thought that Champ Mons, man, I was like, wow, this young man really, really impressed me. Not just as a quarterback. Then you have to go back and, as you and I were driving home, I said, he's only a freshman. Wow.
We're going to be saying that all year.
Yeah, I know it. And you're sitting there going, he looked a little bit like a freshman in the first, but I think a lot of that, in the first half, was we ran some bad routes. We dropped some passes.
Yeah.
And
well, it's not all him. There's 10 other guys.
Yeah. And so I meant my point I'm making is that even though we're down, they get the ball to start the second half, and like you said, our defense kind of rallied.
Yeah, they get the ball to start the second half, and we force they went for it on a fourth down play. They didn't get it, so turnover on downs. We get the ball back, and we start from our own 21. Big play from Mons to Stinson, big 63-yard play, sets us up, and then they bring in the heavy package on a short. Was almost like a 1 inch
because of some penalties. It's called 1 yard.
Right,
now.
I know it's 1 yard, but let's be real here. It was more like 1 inch. But they bring in, Afe Rivers comes in and plunges in for a touchdown. And so here we are now. All of a sudden, it's 22-13. But then here comes Eau Gallie again. That theme. Every time we scored, they answered the bell every single time. They come right back. Welch, 39-yard run. Now, all of a sudden, they're back on top again, or not back on top, but extend the lead a little bit more. And here we come back. We start on our own 20. 5 plays, 80 yards. Stinson, another big catch for 36 yards. We're only down by 2 at this point. Yeah, we're getting late into the third quarter. But then after that play, kickoff return for a touchdown. Eau Gallie turns it into 29-20. It's just every time we scored and we were getting so close, they would come back with another score.
Well, we went for 2 one time and we didn't make it. We didn't make it.
Right.
That hurt us.
Right.
That hurt on that play. But you're right. All of a sudden we're down 29-20, and you're thinking, okay, how can we? That's 2 scores.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got one of them.
Yep.
We came back. Hit E.J. White down the sideline on a beautiful over-his-shoulder catch on a pass interference call, which we'll talk about that. But that ball was thrown beautifully. He laid that just right over EJ's shoulder, and EJ's 6'2", and the guy was all mugging him and grabbing a hold of him. But he goes up and he catches that ball, brings it in, gets his feet down, and it's a big, big play right there.
It was huge because we're down by 2 at this point.
Yeah, and so now we're actually 29-26.
29-27.
27?
Yeah, we're at 29-27 after EJ's touchdown.
Oh, we kicked the extra point.
Right.
What I'm saying,
right,
instead
we
of going
kicked the
for,
extra point.
Yeah, we went for 1 because
Right.
going for 2 would have kept us down by 1.
Right.
So
correct.
we got that 1 point, and then we kicked off, and there's less than 2 minutes to go.
Correct.
And we have 2 timeouts left, and we're in the game, and I remember Lenny wisely uses his 2 timeouts, but he's out. Well, I said the worst thing they can do here, if we stop them, the clock stops.
Yep.
But if they throw a pass, it stops the clock.
Right.
So it's kind of like having that extra timeout.
Yeah.
But they'll milk it all the way down. If they ran it to 4th and we stop them, then they got 40 seconds they can run off the clock and use their timeout
Correct.
to come out to bring the punt. But they went for a pass.
They did.
And all of a sudden now they're having to punt.
And R.J. Jones comes up with a big play.
Yeah.
On that play because they were going back to Maltsby, their stud receiver.
Yes.
And R.J. comes up.
Times it beautifully.
Times it perfectly. I mean, depending on which side of the field you sat on, you might be saying great play, or you might be saying, oh, that was pass interference. It was a bang play. And, given what, and this was the other theme that was going on all night was the number of penalties that were being called for both sides.
Yeah, that we had
and some
13,
interesting calls.
They had 13 and 10 against them.
Yeah.
The one call in the back where we had the E.J. White touchdown.
Yeah.
The official threw the flag. It was pass interference.
It was.
But he caught it. It's a touchdown. So
you would decline.
It makes
you decline the penalty.
You decline it.
Yeah.
So even and all of a sudden we're getting ready to kick off. Then the official moves the ball up 15 yards.
Yeah.
Because of the penalty in the end zone.
Didn't make any sense.
It wasn't a dead ball foul.
It was not.
It was a live contact physical pass interference.
Right.
It was declined by Vero Beach. We took the touchdown. So all of a sudden, we're now kicking off at the 45 of
Eau Gallie.
Eau Gallie. Eau Gallie's coach is going crazy over there.
I don't blame him.
I don't either. But because of that, they get the ball back on the 20.
Yeah, after the touchback.
Mm-hmm. And then here becomes one of the most controversial plays in this series that I've ever. You talk about officials taking control of a game, and you talk about bad calls. That was the one on the touchdown by White was just nobody knew the rule.
Yeah.
And at least that's my interpretation, that they didn't know the rule. Unless in high school it's different, because high school may be different. But
I mean, if the telltale is by how a coach reacts.
Yeah, and that coach of his was going out on the field. He he wanted that official over there to talk to him, explain to him what happened.
The coaches near us in the press box were going crazy.
And they were and they were like, they can't do that, which we already had said that.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree with them too. But then this series, they get the ball back. We got to find a way to stop them. First play, boom, stop them.
Yeah, because we knew they were going to run. Because the clock is now our enemy.
Exactly. So
right.
Lenny calls timeout. Get to the next play, stop them. Boom. Last timeout.
Mm-hmm.
Lenny's thinking, okay, if we can stop them here, they'll have to punt. We got a shot.
Yeah.
And then that's when I said to you, the biggest gift he could give us here would be to throw a pass and be incomplete, because that's like having a timeout. Sure enough, it is. They run a slant to the inside with the Maltsby, their great big receiver, but our defender, RJ, he comes up and times it beautifully and knocks it down.
Mm-hmm.
So now the clock is going to be
fourth down. It's fourth down.
And so now you're thinking, punt. Okay, all we got to do is don't hit the kicker.
Yeah.
Don't hit him. If he punts that ball, get a decent return or whatever you do.
Sure.
That gives us a chance to go deep.
Yeah.
So what happens, folks? It is a bad snap or a low snap.
Yeah, it
the
was a low
punter muffs the snap. He drops the ball. All of a sudden, he's dropping it. We have a shot at him.
Yeah.
We come in.
Brian Carter.
Brian Carter wraps him up on that play and didn't cause a fumble or didn't sustain him enough where he stopped him. He missed him. Then here comes Bell.
Yeah, Mike Bell's right there.
Mike Bell comes in, makes a hit on him. And then the next play you come back around, and he's running.
And then Javion Greer.
And Javion Greer comes up and finally hits him. But as he's falling, the ball hits his foot. He throws it out. His foot hits the ball, and it goes about 5-6 yards. And that looked like a big mess over there when everybody going for it.
Yeah.
But they called roughing the kicker.
Yeah.
Roughing the kicker. And I'm going to tell you what. This color analyst, being me, went nuts because that ball, he's no longer, unless he reestablishes himself as a punter. And there was no way that he could reestablish himself with Vero Beach all around. He got hit, and the ball, he was trying to throw it, and they got hit at the same time. The ball hit his foot, and it went about 4 or 5 yards, and it was kicked all the way around, went out of bounds. It was Vero Beach ball, we thought.
Yeah.
And here we are thinking, okay, field goal wins.
We're going to have the ball somewhere around the 20 or 15, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was actually closer between around the...
Right.
Well, you're right.
Yeah, we weren't sure because the way everything was rolling around or whatever, but... You're thinking, all right, we've got a chance.
Yes,
that's what we're the biggest
going
thing.
Excited.
We've got a chance.
And there's a late flag that comes flying in, and they said roughing the kicker.
Yeah,
and I'm going, are you got to be kidding me? I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Even Eau Gallie's people, the guys in the booth, went, oh boy.
Yeah,
they're going, wow. They're up there yelling and screaming. Oh, it's not a fumble. It's going to be roughing the kicker. And the guy goes, I don't know how, but we didn't know how either.
Yeah,
but
it was totally uncalled for.
Yeah, and let me say this: the interpretation of the rule, and again, we're going to try to clarify all that, was that he established himself as a kicker.
Right. So in a situation like that, we looked up the rule, and basically what the rule says is that if there's a situation where there is a bad snap to a perceived fumble or whatever, that if the kicker picks up the ball and starts to run with it, he is actually a runner, but at some point he can declare himself as a kicker again, and he can kick the ball. So now, how do you do all of that? I have zero idea on that and especially in that situation where you had, within a 1.5 seconds, you had 3 guys right on top of you. He couldn't even, if you watch the replay, the young man could not even take a full step and try to kick that ball.
No,
he couldn't.
He couldn't.
So how do you,
with his leg going back?
At what point? What's the signal that says I'm now a kicker again?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you know that? And
again, in all fairness to Vero Beach, and they were Space Coast officials, and we've had our arguments with Treasure Coast officials in the past, but that crew missed several calls. One of our players got penalized for 15 yards because he looked at the official and said, did you really think that was a whatever call it might be or something? Without using penalty.
Did you see him holding me? That was the question.
Yeah, did you see him holding me?
And he threw a penalty on him.
And he threw a penalty at him. I mean, when can a player go to the official and not, you don't have to call him any names or anything,
right,
but you have the right to ask. And if he says, no, I didn't see it, or you say, just play ball. Yeah. He didn't say anything. He just threw the flag for 15 yards for asking, did you see him hold me?
That's how it was relayed to us. Now, we weren't there.
No.
Now maybe something else was said. It could have possibly, but But you're right. I mean, there ought to be moments here where either a player or a coach can ask the official a question or at least point something out, and say, hey, you need to watch this, man. These guys are holding or something.
The whole game, they had breaks. They took breaks to talk to each other on penalties.
Right.
It was not like, I got it, it's good.
Correct.
The referee would walk and say, now, what do you see, what this and that?
Yeah.
Then they would... That was the whole game doing that, which told me that either the referee didn't have a lot of confidence in his crew, or right.
No, I agree.
So I'll leave it at that.
Hey, look, with that penalty, does that mean that Vero got robbed of a victory? We don't know. We'll never know.
We would have had to score.
Potentially, if we couldn't have gotten in the end zone, we would have at least been able to try a field goal. And maybe win the game by 1 point. But we'll never know because, that opportunity was taken from us in that situation. So, it's 0-1 to start the season against Eau Gallie. So now you got to do your best to put that behind you because now you got to turn your attention to another tough opponent in Buchholz that's going to be coming to the Citrus Bowl on this Friday night. And, Gary, that's a team that, is not to be taken lightly at all.
No, they're well coached too. The young man that's coaching up there is he was there when GT and Matt were playing at UCF too, and his name's Mark Whittemore is the head coach, and he's good. He is good. He was a wide receiver for UCF, one of the best back in the early 90s and all, and he had 100 catches for 1,900 yards in his career at UCF. And so he's very smart. He's got a son that's playing at UCF right now as a wide receiver, Trent Whittemore. So I've known Mark. I know what he's a good coach. His team was, I think, runner-up last year in the state. Mm-hmm. I think they played in the final. Don't hold me to that, but I think they did. Or they were in the Final Four.
So I guess, Gary, the real question is how do you, compartmentalize, if you will? How do you get this game, totally behind you and then start getting ready for this one?
Well, you got it. First of all, you do that on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, you have your meetings, you have your walkthrough. It's so funny. We got Lenny's stats from Eau Gallie on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like him putting the game behind him.
Yeah.
Now they go to week 2, and this is the Buchholz game. His whole staff, Lenny will spend all day Saturday looking at film and analyzing it and all like that. And then when Monday and Sunday the staff gets together and they'll look at film, they'll analyze it, grade their players, look at what they need to work on, write down certain things, and then sometime Monday when they go out, they'll try to correct their mistakes, and then what they did on Friday, and then all of a sudden now it's ready to go. We start thinking about Buchholz. You got to always fix the mistakes you think you made, sure. And you got to try to understand, explain to them why it happened and what they see. So now they got to get ready for Buchholz. Buchholz is a very good team. Needless to say, our first 3 games, Eau Gallie, Buchholz, and Homestead, are 3 of the top 25 teams in the state of Florida.
Yeah, no, so, it's a tough 3-week stretch. The gauntlet is there, and we're a third of the way through. So now we got to see what happens on Friday night. And look, we could have a really nice bounce back here and get a nice win out of this. But it is going to be another fight. There's no doubt about it because this is going to be another tough opponent. Gary, watching the Gardens game as our preseason game, and then now season or week 1 against Eau Gallie. What do you know about the Indians? What do these 2 games tell you at this point?
Well, I think there's a lot of people don't realize how many young people are playing in these games. I mean, there's freshmen playing, there's some sophomores playing, juniors playing, and then there's some seniors that naturally are sprinkled across on both sides. But you got a lot of young people, And what happens is that you've got to find ways to get them to be more disciplined of what you want, what the routes you run, your blocking schemes, the special teams was, you heard Bill Mata say to Matt to Derek in our post game. Was Matt? It was Matt. Yeah, in our post game show, and he said our special teams just did not play a good game, and we've got to do a better job with special teams. And he talked about the defense. We've got to do a better job of angles, tackling, and there's a lot of mistakes going around for all sides of the ball. What I saw offensively, sometimes I wasn't sure if they ran the right routes or they ran discipline routes. Mm-hmm. There were guys bunched together at times on plays, and I think those are things that you have to work out, like today when they go out today and talk about it and run it so that everybody understands where they're supposed to be across the field. Other than that, I think they played a very good team, and they're going to play a very good team this week. Buchholz is very disciplined, very good team, even though they got a junior quarterback. His name is Trace Johnson. He threw for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So they got one heck of a receiver in Justin Williams that is a junior. He had 9 catches for 151 yards, averaged almost 17 yards a carry, and he had one of the 2 touchdowns. So you got a great passing combination there. And then you got some others, but they're a young team too. They're young. They got their junior quarterback, junior receivers, rushing. They got a sophomore, Josiah Powell, 25 carries for 85 yards. He had a touchdown. So he's only a sophomore, and so you've got a very young team offensively. I'm sure I don't have the lineup for their offensive line yet, or I haven't seen the depth chart, or not a depth chart, but their roster. Everybody has an early roster, then all of a sudden it changes, after the first game. And so they may have some more veterans in that offensive line, but they played Vanguard, Ocala Vanguard, who was a pretty good team. They beat them 24-7. And they did most of their scoring in the first half. And so Vanguard held them to 7 points in the second half. So they took advantage of capitalizing on either mistakes or whatever in that first half and put 17 points on the board. So it's a good team. We're in for a good game.
No doubt about it. And something we've been talking about for the last several weeks now about this first 3-week stretch. And so far, we are 0-1, but we got an opportunity to bounce back and get a win this week. And you know what? What'll help is your support. So make sure to join us Friday night at the Citrus Bowl. Kickoff time is at 7 o'clock. Our pregame coverage will begin at 6 p.m. with Countdown to Kickoff presented by Cap's Pizza. And I look forward to having you there. As always, go Indians.
Thanks for joining us inside the press box. For more, go to ChristianFM.com.